Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Build Your Best Life. I'm Coach Deborah, and I am super excited to have you here today because guess what? You could have been anywhere else, but you decided to join us on this Thursday. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for all of your likes, your shares, your comments, your prayers. We appreciate all of those things. We would not still be here if it wasn't for you, our fans. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube Build Your Best Life page by going out to YouTube and search for Build Your Best Life with Deborah D. Smith and subscribe. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in today and welcome to our segment of Let's Talk About It. Let's talk about it. This is one of our new segments that we launched here in 2025, and it's about what are those topics that are hot, that are trending, that people are talking about, people want to know more about. Well, when we were here and Brittany and I, and we were talking about topics and those topics that we want to have out there, Dan, that would be so helpful and people want to hear about it, that, we asked, let us know topics that you want to hear about. What are some of those topics that you would like to provide your feedback on so we can get to see what your perspective is and we can go get more insight. And that's what we're here for, to provide information that will encourage and equip our mothers with sons, and also to teach our young men how they can overcome obstacles and build their best lives. In order to do that, we need to be talking about things that are relevant. So we did ask for that information, and some of you did respond. So it's not too late. If there's a topic, a hot topic that you want us to talk about in the future, put it in the comments. Salandra, Peggy, thank you so much for tuning in. Deacon Holmes, make sure that you put those topics in the comments and we will talk about them in the future. Well, as I stated, when we were here 2-3 weeks ago, we did get some recommendations, and we're going to talk about one of those tonight. And I had to do a lot of research on this particular topic, but hey, it's trending. And especially with us going into, when I say us, the United States going into a new administration, this is definitely something that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about, what those changes are going to be. And I was even looking at something online today and saw that we have some people that have been fired from the, EEOC office. So I'm sure this topic is of interest to many people. So what we're talking about today is DEI. DEI. And I have to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, huh, what? Did they forget to put the rest of it? Then it clicked, DEI. So we're going to talk about today diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. And this is something that is relevant to each and every person, whether we want to admit it or not, because the philosophy of what we feel, what we understand, the culture, people acknowledging different aspects of it, embracing each other, supporting each other, and accepting those of all racial, sexual, gender, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds, among other things that differ between different individuals. Now, as I go through this information, and you may say, well, DEI, that's not what I refer to it as, or that's not how my company uses it. Well, there are several different acronyms and I'll say semi-topics that go along with this diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, one is D&I, that's diversity and inclusion. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is what we were talking about tonight. DIB, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. DEB, diversity, equity, and belonging. Now we're going to get into companies, because there are some companies that they have this big ticket item as far as employees and employee relations in the workplace. And so a lot of companies have different things in place. Hi, Cleo. Thanks for tuning in today. So what is diversity? What is diversity? Well, diversity acknowledges how people differ, because if you look in the mirror or look next to you, we are not all the same. So how can we differ? So we can differ by race, by sex, by gender, by age, by sexual orientation, by disabilities, socioeconomic status, religious beliefs, and other things. But that's the difference. How all the different ways that we can be different, or we are different. Okay. Inclusion. What is inclusion? Okay, the inclusion is thinking about differences and how you practice that diversity. So how do you include those different things? So you can And that comes about in all different aspects of who we are, what we like, what we do. And if you have some comments, please put them out there. I would love to see your comments. One of the ones I can think about is hair. Hair is a big one, and different aspects of hair. And I know as soon as I say hair, people are thinking, oh, she's talking about racial. No, well, not really. Yes and no. But one thing I thought about, I was watching something, and it was a young man. I want to say he was in high school, but he was a wrestler, and he was in a competition. And he had been wrestling, and he was on a team. So it was not like he was in an individual competition, but he was in team. It was a team event. And so his team, they had been in this tournament. They were doing really, really well. All of a sudden, the referee calls, hey, time. And they tell the young man he cannot compete any longer unless he cuts his dreads. And you can imagine the looks, the stares, the what in the world, and some other things. But they told this man he had to cut his hair, or he would not be able to compete. They couldn't show him in a rule book or anything like that, but he had to make a split second decision. Do I continue? Do I let them cut my hair so I can continue, or do I just walk away from this? And for him, it was not something that, oh, I see different people with dreads, but he said his father was from the islands. And so that hairstyle was a part of his heritage. And so when he got of an age where he could choose, his parents allowed him to choose to wear the dreads because that was part of his heritage. So, it was a big deal for him. Do I cut my hair or not? Well, in the end, I guess he said my hair grow back, but he didn't want to let his team down. So he allowed them to cut his hair, and he competed. So he wasn't being included. His difference, his hairstyle, he wouldn't be included. Another thing with hair, not taking into consideration your child's hair, it may not be like yours. Okay, so my hair looks one way and my child hair looks another way because I may be of one nationality and my child may be a different nationality. They may be of mixed nationality or culture, not nationality, but culture rather. So I can't just assume what I put on my hair, I can put on my child's hair because their hair might be different. And then also it goes into still talking about hair. You don't know what you don't know. When I was younger, we didn't have any boys in our families, and our family was very small. Well, when I had a baby, all I knew was Johnson & Johnson products. I didn't know Johnson & Johnson products were not made for African American hair. So that's what I put on my baby's hair. Well, I was just stripping all of the oils that they needed in their hair out of their hair. So needless to say, they're not too happy with me about their hair. But you have to think about all those things when you're thinking about being inclusive, okay? Another part of being inclusive is being respectful. What's being respectful? Okay, you can be respectful with people and holidays. Everybody does not celebrate the same holidays. So I may be in a workplace, I may be in an organization with someone, and we both believe in Jesus Christ. So we both celebrate Christmas. However, because of my African American heritage, I may also celebrate Kwanzaa, which I don't really do, but I'm just saying that may be something that I want to do each year. So for someone to say, well, I don't understand, why do you do that? Well, you don't need to understand. Now, if you want to sit down and just have a conversation with me, I can tell you all about it, what the candles represent, and all of that. But that's a conversation, but you don't try to embarrass me into saying, if I'm a Christian, then I can't celebrate Kwanzaa when you don't know what you're talking about. You're being disrespectful of who I am. So you're not being inclusive. Okay. Another part of being inclusive is supporting others and their beliefs. Because if you remember when I was talking about the diversity earlier, I was saying people have different beliefs. Okay. I always wondered, and this has been as long as I was in the workplace, when someone died in your immediate family, they would give you 3 days off. And I could never understand that because I know it would always be like a week to 10 days or sometimes longer before a family member we had a service for them and they were buried. So I never got with the 3 days. Okay, until I got older and could see the differences in people based on their culture, their nationality, their heritage. Our bodies react differently in death. So if I am of one race, if I die, a certain thing going to happen to my body. And if I'm not, something different happens to my body. So in other words, certain uh, individuals, they need to do things speedily within 2 to 3 days. Why? If not, the skin tone is going to get really, 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 really dark. So they got to move fast. So 3 days, probably adequate for them. But for my family, for my nationality, more likely we're not going to get any darker. We're going to stay the same complexion. So we have that time. And then also you have to look at the socioeconomics of it all. Does my family have the money to bury some right away? Does my family have money to get people from different states or different countries in 3 days? So you have to be, again, when you're talking about being inclusive, you have to be respectful, supportive, and inclusive. So I hope all this is making sense. And if you have some comments on this, I would really, really love to hear your comments. Again, if you've just joined us, we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. So again, as I go a little bit more into talking about inclusion, I guess a simple way to say it would be inclusion is about putting diversity into practice, putting it into practice. So here, I've already said what diversity is, okay? But putting it into practice. So I've said that people are different. We're all different because of age, sex, gender, sexual orientation, nationality, all these different things, religion. So all these things are different, but inclusion, you have to be welcoming, supporting, and respectful again of those differences. And this morning, I was thinking about this segment today. I thought about, so that's just like, how would you treat someone if you were blind? Well, this morning I was thinking, if you're blind, you were blind, so you couldn't see anyone, and you couldn't tell by their voice because they were articulate, spoke great English, and all this good stuff. How would you treat that person that you're talking to? You don't see them. You don't know what color they are, how tall they are, how short they are, if they have any disabilities, what their sexual orientation is. You don't know anything. How would you treat them then? Well, that's inclusion in a nutshell. you would treat everybody the same. And so again, as I thought about it, I watched The Voice, and I don't know how many are familiar with The Voice, but it's something I guess like American Idol and all of that, but they only have singing. So The Voice is about the voice. So they're supposed to select people that can go on throughout the weeks of competition and continue on growing, getting better based only solely on their voice. So in the first part of The Voice is the blind competition because it's about the voice. So they don't want them selecting someone about based on how they look, how they performed, how they think they should have performed based on the way they look. And even though people say, I'm not prejudiced, I'm not biased, okay, but if you're looking at someone and they're singing, is something that people don't know about you gonna come into play? So you're gonna think, nah, that they're not gonna make it through the entire competition. I'm not gonna turn around. I'm not gonna vote for them. So in the blind auditions, in order for everybody to get a fair shake, they can't see them. Everybody has this 4 judges, coaches, and they have the backs to the singers, so they don't know how they're dressed, how tall they are, how short, the nationality, or any of this stuff, unless they can tell from their voices. And most times voices can be so tricky because sometimes they'll think it's a female and it's a male and vice versa. So it's really, really giving everyone that equal opportunity. And that's what inclusion is. Treat me based on equal opportunity. I am who I am. Treat me like I'm Deborah. And that's all that should matter. My name is Deborah. If I'm Deborah and I relate as a he, I'm Deborah and I relate as a he. But treat me like Deborah, who you see. Don't try to interpret. Don't try to figure out anything about me. I'm Deborah. So treat me that way. And that's what diversity is all about. So again, as we're in this new administration, how are the dynamics going to change? There are laws now that people, employers, and everything must treat everyone equally. Is that going to be out the door in the next couple months? Because again, if you tuned in late, they have started firing people from equal opportunity programs or what have you. So, we don't know. All right. And talking about equity, equality. Now, some people say equality and then they begin to talk about equity. Equality is the system in which each individual is offered the same opportunities regardless of their circumstances. So you're rich, you're poor, you're black, you're white, you're pretty, you're not so pretty, whatever, you're offered the same things. For equity, it means that things are distributed, you get resources based on your needs. So that's what they're saying, that everybody should get the same thing. Just because someone is more needy than someone else, then they shouldn't get more. Who can figure? But even though we say equality and equity, people tend to use those two terms interchangeably. But equality is a system. Excuse me. And we currently live in a system that's disproportionate. So because of that, society or some organizations try to balance the situation by doing some things that are equitable. It doesn't always work. Okay. And then I talked a little bit about, when we first started, about belonging, because belonging is another word that comes into play with the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And belonging is when people are treated equally and feel welcome, but no one feels as if their inclusion is questioned. That sounds confusing, right? Belonging is when people are treated equally, they feel welcomed, but no one feels as if their inclusion is questioned. So, I work with young men, I work with mothers. So, let's just say, so I work with single moms and I work with young men. So, I invite people to a luncheon and I say, I'm going to invite the first 10 mother son um, families that sign up. I don't care who comes. I work with everyone. I include everyone. So in that room, if I have a mom and son that's the mom is 50 and the son is 40, I mean, not 40. The mom is 50 and the son is 20 or 25. I have a mom that's 20 and she has a 5-year-old. I have a mom that's 35. She has an 18-year-old. I have an Asian mom, and her son is Asian and another nationality. I have uh, someone that's Jamaican. I have someone that's of European descent. When I invite you to that dinner, I'm just so happy that you signed up, that you were in such a hurry to be in the first 20 that signed up. So first 10 sets that signed up. I am welcoming you. And guess what? I am including you. All I see is all these seats are filled. That's making someone feel like they belong. But if you come in that room and I look and I look and I'm like, you can sit over here, and why don't you come sit right here by me, and you sit on the other side of me, and you look, and I have a certain type of people sitting close to me. You know, I may have all Asian people sitting close to me, and everybody else sitting in somewhere else. Why would I do that? Am I making people feel welcomed? They may feel welcome, but what about all the other people? They're going to want to know, well, why did she choose them to come and sit next to her? Right? Okay, so that fits with any situation. Wherever you go, you should feel like you belong. If you don't feel like you belong, it's not a great feeling. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. And I know we go through things, well, not any longer, but when I was in corporate America, go through those things where you feel like, well, I didn't get that job because I was a female. I didn't get that job because I wasn't the right race, whatever. But I went to school the first year that we had integration here in Jacksonville. It wasn't a good feeling. I was treated very differently, very differently. I was made fun of. I was given the hardest questions to answer in class. I had teachers making fun of the way I would say a word. And you could probably thinking, well, how did they do that? And I know I'm getting a guilt. I didn't know this was going to be this good. It was good to me because I've never really thought about it to this extent. But I had an English teacher and he wrote the word AUNT up on the board. And he says, Debbie, which that didn't make me feel like I belonged because my name was Deborah. It wasn't Debbie. And so, Debbie, what is this word? And I said, aunt. Oh, she said it right. So what was I supposed to say? Aunt? Like I would say if I had been home. I know how to say it. But he didn't think I was going to say it correctly. So I have been in places where I didn't feel like I belong. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is real. It's important. And I think it touches everyone. whether people want to own up to it or not. And like I say, I didn't mean to go this long, but I want to give you some statistics real quickly. But diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, 56% of people say it's a good thing. And I can't go too fast on my words to get to it, so I have to slow it down a little bit. 28% say it's neither good nor bad, and then 16% say it's bad. And then how many people care about diversity? Only 32% of employees feel, excuse me, that having mixed races and ethnicities is important. Only 28% care about what ages people are. 54% of employees think that companies pay the right amount of attention to DEI. 14% say too much attention is given. Then we have 78% of Black employees who say that DEI is a good thing, while 47% of white employees think it's a good thing. 78% of Democrats think it's good, and only 30% of Republicans think it's good. Now, I was shocked at this number, but 29% of it, only 29% of employees care about accessibility for disabled employees. And you probably want to think, well, what do you have to do? But just think about someone that's disabled, so they're in a wheelchair or they're on crutches or whatever. They don't have the mobility that everyone else has. So they're okay on a day-to-day basis, but what happens in the event of an emergency? And just, I think it was Monday or Tuesday night, I was looking at 911 Lone Star, and there was some kind of not worldwide, but a big catastrophe, nuclear, and the employees in the call center, all of a sudden, it struck their building, and someone's alarm went off, and it said, "Everyone get under your desk, get under your desk." And everybody's getting under their desk, but you got one employee in a wheelchair, and he's paralyzed from the waist down. He can't move. He couldn't get himself under a desk. So it was like, you could see the look on his face, but there was someone who had volunteered, and he came and put his jacket over him and his body on top of him. But, that's something that people, I would think, would care more about. And then lastly, the value of DEI. 56% say focusing on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion is good. 28% say, and then 16% say that would be bad to increase trying to make diversity and inclusion better than it is. Okay, so I hope that this information helped or was interesting, because again, this was a conversation that a topic that we were asked to include when we asked for topics. So I hope that it was interesting, and to me it was, I know, and especially gathering the information and doing the research on it, I actually learned a lot. Hi, Linda. Thank you for tuning in. So, again, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. And if you missed this, you can always go back on Facebook and YouTube for the rewind and catch it in its entirety. But I do appreciate you tuning in. And guess what? It is second Saturday coming up. This Saturday, February the 8th. So, it is time for what? Conversation with the guys. Conversation with the guys. So 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 8:30 Central Standard Time. The guys will be on. This month we have Derek Durden, who will be the host. We have Dr. Joseph Levette. We have Isaiah Rucker and Deacon Dan Smith. Their topic is scapegoat. Scapegoat. There's always people that make mistakes, and nobody's perfect. So somebody's always going to make a mistake or do something wrong. But there are those people that are always looking for someone else to blame it on. So you need to check in on Saturday and check the guys out. They are always amazing. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope some of you will tune in Saturday morning. Again, it's 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. So, building your best life is our business. That's not a slogan. It's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you Saturday. And then Tuesday, we'll be back on for a Blueprint for Success. Have a great evening and be safe. Bye-bye.